My team will just keep, oh yes, and we are going to record this just for those that weren't able to make it today, so we can send it out and whatnot. So welcome everyone to the Change the Conversation webinar. So today I'm joined by the team that really made the AdvoKit possible. So you're going to hear from Liz Jones, May Anthony, Sarah Wassertail, and we have our lovely Claire Rory on Marcoms doing the masterminding tech stuff of the webinar as well. So for our 30 minutes together, we will begin with an overview of who Cara Collective is and like why we created this toolkit. Then we will provide, an overview of the two sections of the AdvoKit, highlighting a few key takeaways. So like, what are the things that, you want to walk away from? And next we will move to we will discuss a couple case studies that our wonderful Liz Jones is going to overview. And then we're going to move into a discussion of the 3 challenge opportunities that everyone can sign up for. And finally, we'll end with the questions from y'all. So really this webinar is for you. So we want to hear from you. We want this to be where you get all your questions answered and all your curiosities fulfilled. So while presenting, if you have a question, put it in the chat. We'll try our hardest to answer it while we're presenting, or we'll type in the chat. And if we don't get to it, if that question is unanswered, we'll make sure to save time at the very end to answer it. And of course, if your question only comes up at the end, we'll be sure to get that for you answered at the very end. So thank you all so much for being here today. I'm so excited to have so many wonderful people here. I'm going to pass it off to Sarah Wassertail to just give an overview of Cara Collective and why we created this toolkit.
Thanks so much, Ellen. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. For those who don't know me, my name is Sarah Wassertail, and I'm Managing Director of Expansion and Integration at Cara Collective. So for those who may be less familiar with Cara Collective, we are a national workforce development organization that helps untapped talent obtain, retain, and advance in quality jobs to the magnitude of about 13,000 jobs over a 32-year history with a 70% same firm 1-year retention rate. When we think about the folks the many talented individuals that we have the pleasure of serving every year, we often talk about how they have fallen into misfortune, misstep, or injustice. What this means from a numbers perspective is that about a little bit more than a third of our participants didn't have the opportunity to complete high school. Roughly 60% have been impacted by the criminal justice system personally. And because a majority of our work happens in Chicago, roughly 85% of the population that we serve here is Black, and about 10% is Latinx. The rest is kind of a mishmash of others. As we do our work, and we can go to the next slide, one of the key parts of our model is building deep employer relationships. When we think about building deep employer relationships, of course, it is to maximize the employment prospects for the job seekers in our participant pool, but it is also to serve the business needs of the companies that we work with. As we do this work, we not only leverage it to create better opportunities for our job seekers, but we also use it to maybe help nudge employers on how they can rethink the talent pools that they are bringing into their talent pipeline and how they can support them. And we can go to the next slide. Now, we know that is not unique, and there are many other organizations, whether your workforce development programs or social enterprises on this call, who are also serving incredible untapped talent in your communities. In fact, there's about 11 million people around the country who are hungry and ready to work, but often don't have the opportunity or ability to because of barriers like justice system involvement or lack of educational credentials or otherwise. We also know that there are a lot of open jobs out there, and a lot of employers that could benefit from these talent pools. And yet there are common barriers that these job seekers face that either prevent them from obtaining employment or advancing in their careers. We'll go to the next slide. Some of those barriers you can see on this screen, but as we know, that can be things like pay and benefits to support a family, having consistent schedules and flexibility, and other things you'll see on this slide, such as job requirements, accessibility or arduous job application processes, and then other things around pre-hire, onboarding, background policies, and career advancement. Now, we all know that even though these are barriers that our job seekers oftentimes face, we also know that this talent is well equipped for many jobs with our employment partners and other employers around the city. And so what we wanted to do was to create a toolkit to really distill down what Cara Collective has learned through 30 years of iterating on our process of building deep employer relationships for a few different reasons. Number one, we know that while building relationships is more art than science, that there are some really key steps that have been shown time and again to be successful in not just developing an initial employer relationship, but building a deep one that fosters trust. We also know that oftentimes our counterparts at companies such as talent acquisition specialists and business partners might not always have the lens of our job seekers in mind. They might not recognize that there might be implicit barriers in their process that is preventing them from accessing talent, which hits at the third bullet point as well, is oftentimes there aren't intentional barriers in place, but there are implicit barriers in place that we as workforce development professionals have the opportunity to educate our employer partners on to help them to access and support this talent, which is easier for us to do when we have those deep relationships with employers where we are seen as trusted advisors and can really work with them to problem solve on different opportunities. So I will pass this over to my colleague to dig a little bit deeper. So take it away. I think it's May.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, my name is May. I'm the Senior Workplace Solutions Advisor at Cara Plus. I work with employers on helping them make their hiring process more inclusive. So the title says it all. You're busy, so we made it easy. We know that workplace development organizations and employment social enterprises have an immense amount of responsibility, often wearing a lot of hats. And so while people might think developing employer partnerships is important, they realize that, you know what, maybe it's not always the biggest priority every single day, or maybe perhaps they don't feel like they have the time and resources to develop towards it. So knowing that people are at different stages of maturity, size, and experience when it comes to working with employer partnerships, we want to really underline that this toolkit, there's no one right way to read it or use it. It's designed to be a resource that individuals can reference. We have lots of examples of framing, specific talking points, stories, case studies from here. It's divided into two parts. The first part is cultivating growing strong employer partnerships. The second part is advocating for more inclusive hiring practices. The first bullets here really relate to part one. Specifically, we provide guidance on how you can initiate strong employer partnerships, cultivate those partnerships, what to do if a partnership dries up, what to do if you want to jumpstart a relationship, perhaps COVID's made it more difficult, how you can share your value proposition and become more compelling to different organizations. And in the second part, we really go into advocating specifically for job seekers. We think of advocating in a couple different ways. One, advocating for individual job seekers, really sharing with employers why they might want to change their job descriptions because you have someone who has a really good fit for a position. The second way is really working with employers more broadly and encouraging employers to really think about overall how they can be more inclusive of their job descriptions, how they can provide a better experience when it comes to retention, advancement, and hiring for a diverse population. And last but not least, I think our case studies are really, really great examples of how we at Cara have worked with employers really around advocating for job seekers, which Liz will talk about in a little bit. If you go to the next slide here. Great. So it's a very robust resource. We wanted to share just some of our key takeaways. One thing is that at Cara, as Sarah mentioned, we really believe in relationships over transactions. So we found so much benefit, not from just one-off partnerships where we get job seekers quality jobs. We found that there's so much more benefit if we're able to really become a trusted advisor. So as we think about three key takeaways, it's really around initiating, growing employer relationships and becoming a trusted advisor. To initiate relationships with employers, mission alignment when it comes to your organization and the employer partnership is really key, as well as making sure that you are setting clear expectations with employers about the kind of job seekers that you can provide. To grow those relationships, it's really important to spend the time to invest in those touch points, to make sure you're understanding what their needs are. And one thing that we find really is a big differentiator is knowing data about your job seekers and being able to communicate data that's important to employers. We also know that advocacy can start small. It doesn't need to be something that you start off as an expert and they really grow your skill set in. And by providing a different kind of perspective, showing employers that you really are the expert when it comes to your job seekers in the area that you serve, you will be able to build trust and lead to more job seekers and be seen as a trusted advisor. All right, and I'm going to pass it off to my colleague Liz, who can share more examples of those amazing case studies.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Liz Jones, and I'm a senior corporate account manager at Cara on the employment services team. So my role at Cara is working directly with our job seekers and also building relationships with our employer partners. So I've had the chance to really see in action the incredible principles and ideas that are in the AdvoKit. And so I'd love to share just 3 examples of the ways that we've seen these principles get put into practice. So the first one on the left, streamlining the hiring process. We were working with an employer who was having trouble. They were kind of playing phone tag with our applicants to schedule phone screens, and our applicants would be on a job site or they wouldn't be able to answer their phone. So these just weren't getting scheduled. It was taking a lot of the employer's time. So given the trust that we had built together and in setting goals and doing this work together, we were able to ask the employer if we could just take over scheduling those phone screens. This saved a lot of time and resulted in more job placements. We actually have 9 phone screens happening today with this employer that we pre-scheduled, and that way the applicants are all ready to take the call, and it just saves time on both ends. The next one is around communicating scheduling needs. So we had an employer that was looking for 24/7 coverage, but the participants who were working at that employer were struggling with the hours and shifts that they were given. So because we're in the inclusive employment landscape, we were familiar with this idea of employee-informed scheduling and introduced that to the employer, who put it into practice. So employees could actually work together and have ownership over their own schedule, which decreased turnover and increased a sense of employee ownership and pride working for that employer. So because of that employer's trust in us, we were able to pitch this creative solution and help implement it, which resulted in better results for our participants. And lastly, about leveraging data, which May mentioned, just by virtue of the fact that you're doing this work every day, you have access to so much great data that could be a real game changer for employers. So we have a second chance employer who's been struggling with low applications, and they actually reached out to us at Cara based on this trust that we had built together and asked us if we could share some wage and benefits data for similar second chance employers where we had seen job placements over the past few years. We were able to provide a data report of this information, and then the employer is going to be using this information to advocate to their higher ups to see if there are possibilities to have higher compensation and better benefits to be a more attractive opportunity akin to the other second chance employers that we work with. So these are just 3 examples of the ways that once we build that relationship of trust with employers, we're really able to take our work to the next level and multiply our impact. So we at Cara really believe that by exploring the AdvoKit and following a lot of the principles and ideas that are within it, you can build these relationships of trust with employers too. That's going to really allow us to multiply our impact and ultimately result in more inclusive employment and better and more opportunities for job seekers. So I will pass it back over to Ellen to talk about ways that you can engage with the AdvoKit that are going to be really fun, engaging, and exciting.
Yes. Thank you, Liz. I love hearing you talk about the case studies. So my name is Ellen. I'm the Workforce and Workplace Solutions Specialist here at Cara Plus. So, to help workforce development practitioners and social enterprise practitioners adopt these learnings and test out new practices together, we are launching the Change the Conversation Challenge. So, we understand that time is valuable and, we really want to compensate those organizations that take the time to actively engage in this challenge. Compensation will be addressed to each organization that participates in one or more of the opportunities, regardless of the number of the staff that participates. So I'll say that again. So compensation will be addressed to each organization that participates in one or more of the opportunities, regardless of the number of staff that participates. So as I go through this, you'll see, as I go through these next couple slides, you'll see that compensation is, on the screen. I'm not going to address each opportunity's compensation specifically, but we can answer any questions about it later. I just for timing's sake, to get through the good stuff. So between January and March of 2023, practitioners who engage with employers or aspire to are invited to join one of the 3 compensated opportunities. So the first opportunity is join a learning cohort. So if you're looking to maximize your learnings, join us for 3 one-hour learning discussions in January and February, and a debrief session in March to dig deeper into those insights from the AdvoKit, workshop challenges and solutions, and celebrate all of that wonderful progress that y'all are doing. So I'm going to go to opportunity number 2. So this is share your successes in areas that you might need a little bit more help. So if you have what you need moving forward and you want to do the work on your own, awesome. That is incredible. I want to celebrate that. So once you have tested out these new practices, attend one of our virtual debrief sessions in March to share how you applied that knowledge that you gained from the AdvoKit. And finally, opportunity 3, share your wins on LinkedIn. So if you want to deepen engagement with your community and share your successes with your network, respond to our Change the Conversation Challenge prompts on LinkedIn and describe what you've learned, what you've achieved by applying the knowledge gained from the AdvoKit. So those are the 3 opportunities that we have just at a high level. So 2 things to note from this. So 1, there isn't a cap on the number of people that may sign up from the same organization. However, we ask that everyone sign up individually, just so we make sure that everyone has all of the information. All participants receive the challenge details. So one other thing to note about compensation too. So if you are joining for opportunity number 1, you will join one of the debrief sessions. So there's no need to sign up for opportunity number 2 because you will be automatically a part of that in opportunity number 1. So to sign up, really excited. I hope these are very exciting and interesting for folks. I think that we're going to be dropping the link in the chat to sign up for the opportunity that works best for you. And just segueing over to what's on your mind. So this is the opportunity. We want to hear from you, from what is top of mind for everyone. So feel free to type in the chat, come off mute, or raise your hand. Why don't we first kick it off with what questions or comments or curiosities do you have from what we just presented on, if anything? And I will do my best to see if folks are raising their hand to really to call on everyone. So I'm gonna just pause here, wait while people are thinking. Okay. All right, I'll wait a little bit. Yeah. Oh, great question, LaTanya. Thanks so much for asking this. So are we to ask our clients to engage in the challenge? Love that question. So are you speaking to participants directly, LaTanya, or who are the clients? If you might, yeah.
So I'm sorry. So yes, so the participants are my clients, but what I meant was the companies that are partnered with us, like the ones that I specifically have ownership of, the Habitat Company, Catholic Charities, Leasing and Management. So that's what I was wondering, because it's for them to be engaged, you know, in the workshops and things of that nature. I'm just not sure how to get them to comply with that, with the amount of work that they do, especially the Habitat Company, all across the world is underemployed.
Yeah. Hey, Latanya, thanks so much for sharing that. I think I'll try to answer, and then I'm going to look to some of my other teammates to kind of jump in. So my thought is, since this challenge in this toolkit is really for practitioners, people that are working with employers and participants, I'd say you might not need to encourage folks from the Habitat unless they are job developers or you know, working with both participants and employers. But I'm going to look to Sarah or Liz. Liz, I see your hand raised. There you go, Liz.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Liz.
yeah, definitely. So this opportunity is definitely intended for workforce development organizations like Cara, like many of the other orgs that we're working with, versus employers. So this challenge is really about us at workforce organizations learning how to build up the skills and expertise to build relationships with employers like Habitat Company. So we're not asking anybody else to participate. It's just for us.
Thanks, Liz. Latanya, you all good? Does that answer your question?
So,
Great.
so that means I need to join the challenge, right?
Yeah, we'd love if you joined. Yes.
And I'm
Thanks.
sorry, I don't mean to hog the question. I just had a question, Liz, about the employee informed scheduling. So does that mean that they are allowing the employees to coordinate their schedules to cover all the shifts, or just them ahead of time? Okay.
Yeah, that's something that, and in the past, Cara has worked with an employer to implement. And so we could definitely talk more offline as far as what that looks like. But that was something that that we were able to implement because we had built that trust with that employer. They were willing to go there with us and explore a creative solution.
Awesome. Thanks, Latanya, for asking these awesome questions. I'm just going to pause again. Anyone else questions about what we just presented on? You know, maybe what are folks excited about? Is there something that someone is really excited about? Whether that be the case studies or the challenge. Feel free to type in the chat too. I hear someone. Yeah.
Hi, I have a question. My name is Tyrone.
Hi, Tyrone.
I wanted to kind of dig a little bit more into initiating conversations with employers about adjusting their hiring practices or expectations that they may have for roles. I think that's just a somewhat touchy topic to ask, regardless of whether or not you have a longstanding relationship with the employer or if it's a new one. So how would you suggest going about that? Do you specify with talent coming from your organization or against like altering the company's overall expectations? Like, could we just dig a little bit more into that?
Love that question. So what I'm hearing you say is how, I want to make sure that I'm getting this question correctly. So please correct me if I'm wrong. So initiating those conversations with an employer and like how to understand if that's like a long-standing relationship and just like how that is laid out. Is that what we're curious about?
Yeah, in terms of setting hiring expectations.
Okay.
Or suggestions on how to adjust their expectations given our talent pool.
Awesome. I am gonna kick that one to Liz, if that's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think this is exactly what the AdvoKit is really about. You know, having these challenging conversations with employers and how to push them to do better, especially that part 2 of the AdvoKit. So I think if those are the kinds of questions that you're having, reading the resource, but also picking like maybe opportunity 1 or opportunity 2 to engage with one of these cohort opportunities and kind of like explore and workshop this challenge and put some of these ideas into practice. So those are definitely things that we've had challenges with at Cara too. And that's why we really think that, you know, what we have in the AdvoKit is a great way to address that with employers. And I think joining one of these opportunities is going to give you a community of people to have kind of like a short-term experience of putting those things into practices and maybe piloting a little bit of something.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Yeah, what I love about what you just said is like really like in opportunity one, you know, we want it to be a learning cohort where you're showing up, you're learning, you're practicing things, you're talking about challenges. And, you know, we'll bring in some of our staff too, and we want to just workshop and be there and support you as you have these questions. So thank you so much for that question, Tyrone. So we have about 4 minutes left. Any other final, yeah, and like what curiosities do you have? What is top of mind? What are your employer partnerships like? What are you like looking forward to talking about? I'm here for all questions or curiosities.
Hi, can you jump in
Hi.
real quick?
Yeah.
I am Aurelia Dorsey from IC Stars.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to piggyback off of what Tyrone was saying and basically just say that it never gets easier having those conversations. But one thing that I've done to help is be really direct and then also get to the point quickly, because if you're in the workforce space, you spend so much time talking to employers, and the last thing we want to do is waste our time with an employer who's like not interested, right? And so like I think asking really difficult questions like fairly early on, so that you can just kind of like determine like, is this an employer that wants to work with us or not? And it's certainly not easy. Like I've gotten better over the years, but being able to establish, are you really looking to hire diverse talent, or is this like just checking a box, you know?
Yeah.
And there are like definitely creative ways to get those answers. But it helps me when I can just say, you know what, this is not the right fit right now. Like maybe you can engage in other ways. Maybe you can volunteer, maybe you can sponsor, but like clearly hiring is not the path right now. It just like helps you to take the headache away of like a 45-minute conversation when you know like ultimately they're not ready, right? So
Yeah.
just wanted to support that question and saying like it's definitely hard.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of ways to kind of like get to the answer.
I'm so Arlie, is that correct? Is that your name? Yeah.
Aurelie?
Sorry, Aurelie.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for unmuting and sharing that. Like, I really think, I don't know if you could see, there was some hearts and some like nodding as well. Cause like, that is the truth. Like, that's kind of what, you know, what's a lot of discussed in the toolkit. I'm going to just share something that Liz wrote in the chat, but it really does. It takes some bravery and finesse to bring things up with employers. And like, you know, we want to do what's best for our participants and moving the needle forward for them. And, you know, it is hard to be in that position, that frontline position, determining who those partners are and like how to have those conversations. So thanks so much. Yeah, so we have about 1 minute left. I don't want to cut anyone off, but this has been just such a wonderful time. Any other comments or things we want to share in this space? Also, we won't close out the Zoom session. So if you do want to ask one of the Cara staff from the you know, that's presented today, just a more personal question or what it may be, we'll stay on for about 10 to 15 minutes after as well. Yeah. Eric, it's so good to see you, Eric. I don't know if I can actually see you, but I see you in the chat. So I'm just going to uplift what you said. You know, as an organization in the beginning phase of building out workforce development programs, super excited to utilize the toolkit to assist in building those relationships. So I'm so excited you're here, Eric. And Eric has previously been through one of our solutions lab here at Cara Collective and is doing wonderful work.
Hello.
Well, hi.
I'm DeAndre Wiggins.
Hi,
Today is
DeAndre.
my first day with JLTF in Baltimore.
Yay,
Uh,
welcome.
I'm having a little tech difficulty. I've been trying to get my camera to work, and I can't. You guys cannot see me. Is that correct? I can't
Mhm.
see me, so I don't think you can. Okay.
We cannot
Uh,
see
but
you,
we'll-
but we can hear you. So,
Okay, great. We'll work it out. We'll work it out.
Mhm.
Oh, wait. There we go.
There you
Aha.
are.
Good. Nice to meet you guys. It was a
Nice
pleasure
to
to
meet
sit
you.
in on this conversation, and I certainly look forward to doing so in the future. I have a couple decades in workforce development out here in Baltimore and the surrounding area, working with so-called difficult to serve or hardest to serve populations. And I am absolutely ecstatic to bring some of my skills, some of my know-how to the table so that we can partner and learn from one another. So good to be in community with you guys in this space. Thanks again for having me.
Yes. Thank you so much, DeAndre.
Yep,
Good to be in
absolutely.
community with you as well.
Sure.
Lots of congrats on the new job as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love that. We love to hear that. Snaps around. Well, we are 2 minutes over the, allotted time. So I'll invite the folks that if you have any further questions and you want to stay on, feel free to, but also just to close out, I want to just thank everyone for showing up today and being here and, asking those questions and really, sharing everything about your organization, what you're curious about. So I see that we just popped in the chat. Thanks, May. Just a little bit. If you're like, where's the link to this thing that we've been talking about the whole time? It's here in the chat. Go to it. Sign up for the challenge that fits, your best needs. And we look forward to building community and talking about this more. Thanks everyone for being here.